Hi, welcome to Being Beta, where I'm going to take you through setting up a small or miniature mealworm farm. And the reason you might want to do this is it'll save you quite a bit of money in the long run if you're feeding your worms mealworms, which are a great source of protein, excellent for your chickens, and therefore good for your quality of your eggs. Okay, so in terms of the kit you're going to need, the farm itself here is a relatively small one, which will be fine. I've got 3 chickens, but you've got a 3-tray system. In the top tray, that's where you're going to put your beetles. You're going to hatch your eggs and mealworms themselves in here, and then any pupae, which are going to turn into beetles later on, are going to collect in here. And the reason you put them separately is so that the mealworms and or beetles don't eat them. Then you're going to need your live mealworms themselves, or if you want, you could start by buying the beetles themselves. In terms of environment, for the beetles, I've got some clay so you can mould some little mounds, and some cardboard for them to scuttle around on. Gloves if you're a little bit squeamish, and also want to keep the area nice and clean when you're handling the equipment. Some tweezers, this will help just to gently get the pupae out from the mealworm drawer and pop them in. Oats themselves, this is a great source of carbohydrate for the mealworms. And then for moisture, they don't drink water, they get all their moisture from vegetables, which you can pop in there as well. And I've seen from my own research, some people give them protein sources as well, such as dried egg powder, but again, that's entirely up to you. Vegetable scraps seems to be their main source of food. Okay, so in terms of setup, in the top tray here, which is the one with the sieve bottom, I've put in some oatmeal and mixed with oat bran. And then if you've got kids, this is a great little activity for them to do. I've got some clay, again with no sort of paint or odour in, and we've got the kids to make little shelters and a playground, etc., and a little bit of cardboard in there as well. So that's where the beetles will go. They'll lay their eggs, which will drop through this mesh sieve material. The eggs will fall down into this section here, which again is a mixture of oats and oat bran, and then I've added in some vegetables now as well to give the mealworms their moisture. Once I start seeing the pupa develop, then I will take them out using the tweezers and gloves, and then I'm going to store them in here. And then once they've hatched into beetles, I'll then put them back into the top tray, which is where that life cycle begins. So obviously once I've got beetles in here, I will need to be putting vegetables in here as well to give them the moisture that they need. And then I've got my pot as well, so if I do want to start separating out mealworms I'm going to give to the chickens, etc., then I can start doing that there. Now in terms of the individual life stages, I'll come on to that next. So for the beetles themselves, they can last up to about 8 weeks, and during this time they'll just be eating and mating with one another, and an average female beetle can lay about several hundred eggs, in and around several hundred eggs, and they live for, like I say, 8 weeks or so. The egg stage itself, this will last between 4 and 20 days depending on the temperature they keep them at. The warmer the better, the sooner they will turn into the larva, which is your mealworms themselves, and if they're kept in a fridge below about 10 degrees, then the eggs remain dormant. Okay, then the larvae themselves, they're going to last for about 4 weeks or longer, and you can see them burying down into the grub in there, and this is when, dependent on their temperature they're kept in, the diet that they get given, this is where they'll stay in this stage until they turn into pupa. And the pupa, when they're in that stage, they don't eat, they don't move around, although you might see them wriggle occasionally, and it can take as little as 6 days for them to hatch into beetles, again depending on the temperature they're kept at and what they ate when they were mealworms. But you do need to keep the pupa separate from the mealworms. So as soon as you see the pupa in this middle stage, you need to separate them from the mealworms, and you need to keep them separate from beetles as well, because the beetles will eat the pupa. So again, as soon as you see them hatch, get the beetles in that top tray.